Good morning on this Sunday, June 16th, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens says he's sad and angry over two violent incidents that put the city on edge. Also, Governor Brian Kemp travels to South Korea to drum up more business for Georgia. And MARTA says it will move forward with its massive overhaul of the 5 Points MARTA station despite calls to delay the project. Melita, Phil, Theron, and Brian are all here. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
A violent week in Atlanta. Shots rang out at a busy food court downtown at Peachtree Center. Hours later, a transit bus hijacked. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens and Police Chief Darren Shearbaum answered questions Wednesday about the incidents and talked about their summer safety plans. Theron, we'll start with you this week. Due to the nature of these crimes, they made national headlines.
National headlines, and it happened actually a block up from where we were at the luncheon for the Atlanta Business League. So I'm just going to take myself into the people that were working in the building that day. You immediately go to all right, there's an active shooter. And so you saw the Atlanta Police Department along with the Sheriff's Office, Fulton County Police, they all converged on the downtown scene. And so I think what the mayor has sort of talked about, Lori, is that it's a confluence of mental health, but also access to guns and people who have mental illness who use guns to hurt people. And so, there were multiple people shot. And authorities came together, and I'm hearing office people came together to try to identify the suspect. And so the mayor is laser-like focused on going into the summer. Every year we talk about this on this show, right? Crime usually spikes in the summer. And so I think that you saw a level of concern, but also, he's outraged, and he wants to try to work with local authorities to try to reduce crime in the city. But I think that this incident was unfortunate, but thank you to the law enforcement, the women and men who apprehended this suspect.
And Phil, the mayor pointed out that despite the high-profile nature of these crimes, overall the city has seen a huge drop in violence.
Yes, so far, although we still have a horrible bail policy, no cash bail, and I think the court system deserves continued criticism, and I wish the city council, it didn't get the coverage, though, of the guns and the mental health aspect of it. So I think the city council mayor could still do something in turning that around.
Because both suspects in these cases were convicted felons over and over again.
That's right. And let me add, too, with regard to the gun issue, if you use a firearm in commission of a crime, it is a felony. So, that part of it is taken care of, just for viewers who may not understand that. But again, and we need more policemen, police officers on the force, too.
Melita.
I think one of the most critical things that came from these press conferences is the fact that the Atlanta Police Department seized 2,500 stolen guns in the last year, and 1,800 of them were stolen from vehicles. So everybody who has a gun has a responsibility to be more careful about how those guns are stored, particularly when you're out and about in traffic and you're parking a vehicle that has a gun in it.
And those numbers are staggering. She took the words right out of my mouth. My question for you, Brian. But, we talk about this on the show a lot, right? I think many of us are gun owners. Even we have them in our cars, but we are responsible. They are locked up in a safe in my vehicle. That doesn't happen enough.
No, and look, part of gun ownership and part of gun rights is being able to take responsibility for your firearm. Look, it is a deadly weapon. It is there for your defense. And I would like to point out that Republicans, conservatives also talk about the way to confront someone, an armed gunman who is committing a crime, is a good guy with a gun. And we actually saw that happen in this particular case. An off-duty police officer with a firearm was able to stop the perpetrator of this crime. And so that's one reason why gun rights must be protected. They are part of the safety solution here.
But it's my understanding that in the hijacking, a person had a gun, and that suspect was able to get that gun away from that person.
No, that's absolutely true. That person ended up getting, I believe that person was actually shot.
And killed.
Yes. Yeah, terribly tragic situation. Nevertheless, I firmly stand by that person's right to have that gun on them. Look, I do think it's a little bit different with the cars. Whether or not, there's going to be severe disagreements about local ordinances to make it a crime to keep your door unlocked if you have a gun inside. There's a gun rights issue, and it goes up against state law as well, we have learned. I would just appeal to gun owners, you have a responsibility to be safe with your gun if it's locked up in your car.
Very good point. Now I've got to shift gears because we have a lot to talk about this week. Another high-profile story: Hunter Biden convicted on all 3 felony counts in a federal gun trial. Jurors found President Biden's oldest son guilty of lying to a federally licensed gun dealer, making a false claim on the application by saying he was not a drug user, and illegally having the gun for more than a week. Brian, what is the impact of this outcome for voters, if any?
In this particular case, I think Republicans need to be careful about how much they celebrate. I think those who are celebrating, I think they are feeling a sense of relief because they feel like their guy has been under attack in the justice system, and they want to see the other side suffer at the hands of lawfare as well. Politically, I don't think it matters. Voters know that Hunter Biden is not on the ballot. If anything, I think it might help the Biden campaign's argument that they're not pulling the strings of the Justice Department. So I don't know that politically this is a big win for everybody. I think what it is a family tragedy. For this to matter politically, what needs to happen is for Hunter Biden to be tied to Joe Biden in some sort of corruption, some sort of pay-for-play, perhaps with the Chinese government or a major Chinese company. That is something that would have political salience. But too many Americans, particularly too many Americans in Trump's base, working class white voters, have a family member who has had these drug addiction problems, has seen their life spiral out of control, seen their loved ones make terrible decisions that are dangerous for themselves and the community. I think there's a lot of empathy for what Hunter Biden is going through.
Theron.
The thing, and well said, Brian, the thing I think that is also different, Lori, and panelists, is that the outcome, how they handle the outcome. I mean, the president said, look, I love my son, I'll stand by him, but I will respect the judicial process. He walked out of the courtroom holding his wife's hand and Dr. Biden's hand as well. And so, look, he definitely got convicted. You're right, Brian is right. I mean, we shouldn't celebrate that on either side, which is why I've had a more specific, objective tone when it comes to like how we deal with these convictions. But I think I just want to stress that you didn't see Hunter Biden running to reporters saying that the criminal justice system was rigged. And I think to B-Rob's point is that we got to make sure that the Republicans don't live a double standard. And so I had not seen as much piling on. I don't know what Phil's about to say, but ultimately I think justice, prevail.
And Phil, like just real quick, Hunter Biden has said that he's only prosecuted because his last name is Biden.
But I'm talking about the outcome of the conviction.
Well,
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Talking about double standard with Republicans. In fact, you liberals that like to talk about guns all the time, the guy lied on a form when he purchased a gun. And so, let's be accountable. You can make choices, but that's still, you make a bad choice, you got to go to jail. So I think politically that it's probably not going to hurt Joe Biden because he's the most unpopular president in modern history. He's down to what, 37% popularity, and I think that the U.S. attorney, though, Brian, I would remind you that he could have prosecuted him on all of the corruption that the Biden crime family did. He let all of that lapse, and so he actually was covering, in my opinion, for the Biden administration and just doing this gun charge, which is an open and shut case.
Remember those words: if you committed a crime, you should go to jail. Let's remember you said that about, because when I revisit that with Donald Trump.
You can always appeal, like Hunter.
But no, you just said that. If you commit a crime, you should go to jail.
Oh, I believe that, but you can always appeal.
That's all right, Melita, weigh in here.
Jared Kushner, money from Saudi Arabia. Let's see what happens when that's investigated.
I didn't know there was any charges.
That's the problem with all of these investigations. They keep going and going and going. All right, folks. Well, up next, Governor Brian Kemp on an international trip to South Korea. We'll discuss after the break.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Governor Brian Kemp and the First Lady are in South Korea this week on an economic development trip. Phil, this is the governor's 6th overseas trip.
Well, I am in favor of these trips over the years. He goes often with Pat Wilson, our Economic Development Commissioner. We are the #1 state in which to do business. South Korea is a great ally. It's better dealing with South Korea and our allies than with Communist China. And so politically, if he wants to run for U.S. Senate, I think it's great that he went over there. He visited the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea and got a little taste of foreign policy from the governor.
All right, Theron, we're going to move on to the Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis, who spoke at a church conference this week. She talked about the challenges that she faces, including being, quote, attacked and over-sexualized as a black woman doing her job. Your thoughts?
Look, I got beat up a little bit by some of my friends when I sort of talked about this sort of situation that has, we moved on from. And the situation is, look, District Attorney Fani Willis made a mistake by entering into a relationship with Nathan Wade. All right, I want to say that. I think we all I've said it time and time again. I think that it was a poor judgment of discretion. Be that as it may, we got to move on, and I think that's what she's saying. Like, she looks back at this, and there was definitely a lot of things said. Yes, she is a black woman in a position of elective office. Yes, she's going to be treated differently. What is interesting to me now is how does she position herself to continue to focus on the merits of the case? We got a 3-judge panel that's got to look at whether or not she should be removed. I think she will stay on the case, and so ultimately she just got to remain focused and focus on the merits of the case. That we had a former president of the United States of America with 18 co-defendants who tried to overturn democracy on an election result.
I don't think she made a mistake by having a relationship with Nathan Wade. I think she made a mistake by hiring her romantic partner as a special prosecutor in the most high-profile case in the country at that time. And the over-sexualized thing, that's a really odd thing to say. I haven't seen that at all. I disagree that that's been how the framework for this is seen. I think what we're talking about is a romantic relationship. Now, I don't think it's over-sexualizing the person that we're talking about. She made a business decision to hire someone with whom she was in a relationship. It has gone to the courts. It's now going to go to the appeals court. It has made a major problem for the prosecution in this case. It is a matter of judgment, and it was poor judgment. She is being targeted not for sexual reasons, for gender reasons, for race reasons. She is being targeted for her decisions, period.
All right, so, and then we saw former special prosecutor Nathan Wade stopped his CNN interview when asked when his relationship began with Fani Willis. It was really awkward.
It was awkward.
Very awkward. I mean, honestly, Wade, as a communications person and as somebody who deals with crisis communications, shush.
Well,
don't do these interviews.
Well, for viewers that may have missed it, he had a panic attack, and the consultant rushed over, stopped the interview, and he was asked, by the way, when did your affair start? What was the date? And he kind of didn't want to answer.
Fumbled.
Why was he even doing the interview?
That's my question. Why are you out there?
If you can't answer that question, that's the obvious question.
Yeah, well, and he's going to be asked that anyway.
But Melita, he also said that he is not to blame for delaying the Fulton County election interference case.
Well, there are a lot of people who do things that they later regret, that they never want to take blame for or accept responsibility for, and I think this might fall into that category.
You agree?
No might about it. It does fall into that category. And it hurts the whole narrative of this conflict of interest, because let's remind ourselves that there's a court case now to remove Fani Willis in her office from even prosecuting Trump and these defendants on these trumped up RICO charges. So,
and she asked for that to be dismissed.
That's right. Yes. She has also asked for it. This speech at this AME church in Marietta, the second time, she said, "I'm not thinking about it," but then she attacks idiots who are Republicans, and then she goes on and on about the case. I think she's in a panic mode too.
Look, I'm gonna say this. I do agree with, I think, most of the panelists. Nathan Wade, brother, just
shush.
Let's just calm it down. I think this guy's tried to be employable going forward. I think he definitely feels very passionate about this. But ultimately, if you're not prepared to answer the tough questions, I think you got to sit down somewhere.
Brian.
When you're going out to do an interview, here's my advice. Have a message and drive it. If you do not have a message, don't do the interview. And I think that's what we saw here. Yeah. He had a consultant with him. Obviously, we saw him in the camera shot back there consulting, in real time in the video. And how they put this guy on air and don't worry, they're not going to ask you about when the relationship started, the subject of the appeals court case. Don't worry about that. If you can't answer that question honestly, and they can't, what this demonstrated for finalities, they cannot honestly answer that question. There's an odor of mendacity, as Judge McAfee said. Shut up.
If I was the journalist interviewing him too, I would have gotten a little tougher. Just say, why did you do that, and can you answer my question?
Well, at least they kept rolling, and so that was to their credit. But moving on, Vice President Kamala Harris back in town Friday, speaking at the 100 Black Men of America conference. Then she'll be back in Atlanta again this week as well. Melita.
I think they need to just have a little suite for her at the airport to freshen up every time she lands in Atlanta. But this is a part of demonstrating clearly that Georgia is a battleground state, that the votes of Georgia citizens matter, and that the Biden administration realizes and recognizes the important role Georgia will play in November.
And the important role that African American men and women will play in this upcoming election as well, Brian.
It is a major, major problem for the Biden administration. You know, recent polls have shown Trump getting more than 20% of the black vote, and Biden in the New York Times poll only getting 65%. Now, I don't think it's going to be that low, but he's going to be he's going to be historically weak with black voters, who are 30 to 31% of Georgia's electorate. It's a major problem. I'm watching some broadcast news this week, and I'm beginning to see not only the vice president coming back time and time again to speak to black audiences, as has the president, as has Harris's husband, Doug, Mr. Doug. And I'm seeing TV commercials now that are targeted specifically to what I've done for black voters from the Biden campaign. So, look, they're panicking a little bit, and they should be. If Donald Trump gets just 15% of the black vote in Georgia, he's going to win in a landslide in this state.
Theron, are they panicking? Are Democrats
no,
panicking?
There's no panic. The same reason why you see Republicans come to the state and they geographically choose areas of the state. They choose events where their most prominent supporters, which are white men and predominantly white women, do that. So no, I think that the vice president coming back here is a good thing. She's talking to the 100 Black Men of America. Shout out to Milton Jones, who chairs that board. This is an organization that has led the way for a long time. And so, look, we need high turnout, and we'll get it. Donald Trump will not get 20% of the black vote. Mark my word on that. But I do think that there is a concerted effort by Republicans to try to, trick black voters into thinking they've done all this stuff for them. But I think the Biden administration's delivery and success on the issues that black voters and brown voters care about is unmatched.
Phil.
Well, I don't disagree that both the Democrats and Republicans are targeting their base vote and get them out. But as we all know and agree on this panel, it's going to be the independents, the moderates, and of course, Brian's right. If we can, as Republicans, up the black vote, I've mentioned on this show before, the Jewish vote here in this state is hemorrhaging, with Joe Biden stabbing Israel in the back at every turn. It's an outrage.
Melita.
Well, I think the Biden campaign is showing smart strategy. Now, yes, Republicans would like to call that panic, but it's smart strategy. And some of the other ads which highlight the former president's January 6th involvement and some of his misstatements over the years, those are very smart ads, and I think they will appeal to the moderates you're talking about, Phil.
Okay, up next, MARTA says it will move forward as planned with an overhaul of the 5 Points MARTA station.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Despite calls from Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens to delay the project, MARTA says it plans to move ahead with its massive renovation of the 5 Points MARTA station. Phil, there are a lot of questions surrounding an audit, though, of the MARTA sales tax.
Well, that's right, and it is true that MARTA even admitted last year that they overspent on buses and not enough for transit. However, I think that there ought to be full speed ahead for this MARTA station, because the contract has already been let. And I think it's a little late now to try to say, oh, wait a minute, let's stop it. And also, we just need to get it done.
Theron?
I mean, the costs are rising as we delay.
The more you wait, Theron?
Yeah, let's just go into the meat of the story, right? The mayor had every right to come out and say, hey, I think you should pause. And so what you saw is that MARTA responded to him with a respectful letter that talked about how they got to make sure that they work with the Federal Transit System, Federal Transit Administration, USDOT, and public and private contractors that they've signed contracts with. And so I agree with Phil. I think this should move forward. And there will be a meeting. I think that the mayor and MARTA will get together to talk about it. Also, Central Atlanta Progress has expressed some concerns, so there will be a meeting there as well. But ultimately, I think that MARTA will show the residents that they can temporarily, renovate and make this center of the transit sort of connections all across the city a really beautiful place where people can actually connect. And if you look at how they handled the airport, right, we were very worried about the 6 weeks that it would take to shut down the airport station. If you go there now, it's beautified, it's good, and everyone was able to get through it with effective communication to the public. And I think that's what MARTA got to continue to do.
And that's the key. Okay, so moving on, because Patricia Murphy with the AJC has an opinion piece out about House Minority Leader James Beverly. Now, a review by an outside attorney could not substantiate accusations of sexual harassment, but some Democrats are saying that the investigation did not go far enough. Now, Beverly denies any wrongdoing, but there is at least one call for his resignation. Melita, you've got some background on this. You know that this has been in the works for a while.
It has been in the works for a while. There have been numerous lengthy Zoom calls from members of the House delegation talking about this. One of the things that upset some of the members of the House delegation is that the report their money paid for was released to the press before it was released to the delegation. This problem is causing great stress to the individual legislators. The staff for the House caucus has quit. It's causing a halt to some of their fundraising, and you have a lot of candidates who were recruited by the staff before the staff quit who are now wondering who's going to help them get elected. So it's a setback for sure. No matter what the report said, the impact of the process is a setback.
Brian?
You know, all of that is true, and that's really great news for the Republican majority in the state house. There are a couple of districts in Gwinnett County where Democrats hold seats that were won by Brian Kemp in 2022. Those are great pickup opportunities. The Democratic caucus failed to even field candidates in 2 districts with 2 of the most vulnerable Republicans in rural Georgia, where there's a heavy black population in those districts. They had candidates who didn't live in the district and were thrown off the ballot. So there's been a lot of incompetence and mishandling on that side. And this has been going on for some time. It has caused a lot of consternation. Here's my one question. I think, James Beverly, the minority leader, he's someone who's not running for re-election. He's not on the ballot this year. I don't understand why he doesn't just step down and let the caucus move on.
There are a lot of people in the caucus who would agree with you on that.
Okay.
Well, and also I would say this one last footnote. Why didn't this go to the House Ethics Committee? That's where these charges should have gone.
Okay. Well, a recent poll conducted in the DeKalb County CEO race indicates voters may soon make history by electing the first African-American woman to the role in Tuesday's runoff. The poll results show former Commissioner Lorraine Cochran Johnson has a commanding 8-point lead over former longtime Commissioner Larry Johnson. Theron.
Look, it's going to be all about turnout. And anytime you have a runoff election in mid-June, you got to look at the early vote numbers. What we saw last time, Lori, is that last day of early voting, a lot of voters went out. A lot of people, I think we come to find out a lot of those folks were Republicans who actually took a Democratic ballot in a general election for DeKalb County CEO. So if you're Larry Johnson, you got to continue to try to raise money. We have seen second place finishers usually go to the top because they're able to consolidate a base of voters. But with this poll, it looks like Commissioner Cochran Johnson does have a lead, but it's all about how you finish. And as we tape, this will people will be seeing this on Sunday. And I've said this in mayoral races, right? Who has the best election day strategy to turn their voters out will prevail.
It's tough in the summer, Melita.
Well, this race in particular is interesting because we talk about the power of black women voters, and there is an overlap with Senate District 55 where there is a runoff race between Iris Hamilton and a man. So if black women turn out for the 2 black women, you could see a very interesting result.
Okay.
What do you think about it? You're a DeKalb resident.
I got 30
You know what I think about
30
this?
seconds.
I think it's ridiculous that I don't get a vote on my CEO. This should not be a partisan race. I am a DeKalb Republican, and we don't even have a candidate. Just this would be good for the Democrats. It would moderate the electorate to some degree for the Democrats in the CEO race. DeKalb delegation, make this a non-partisan race so that good people like me can have a say in this election.
All right, I gotta leave it there. Coming up, winners and losers. Stay tuned.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Well, shout out to my media friends Neil Gordon and Mike Pechenik. They are out with a book called Trial Watchers. They do a deep dive into why so many of us, including myself, were hooked on true crime series and court cases. And you can find out more at trialwatchers.com. Melita.
Well, a shout out to REM fans who will be playing and replaying the video clip of Losing My Religion, because the band played that on Thursday evening for the first time when they were united, the first time since 2017 when they were inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. My loser is 9th District Congressman Andrew Clyde, because his proposal to restore an offensive and tone-deaf Confederate memorial at Arlington National Cemetery failed miserably, thank goodness.
Phil.
Well, I think I'm going to make Dornoch, which is the horse that won the Belmont Stakes, the winner, and it's owned by some Georgians, Keith Mason and Larry Connolly. So loser has to be our two Democrat senators, Ossoff and Warnock. They are still saying nothing about the horrible open border problems. Terrorists have come in. They're being caught, supposedly vetted by the Biden administration. It's a disaster, and they're saying nothing about it.
Theron.
I definitely want to make Dornoch a winner. Also, I want to make our two U.S. senators winners as well, because they supported bringing a bill to the Senate floor that will federally protect IVF procedures. And also, I want to give a big shout out to State Senator Elena Parent and State Representative Terry Nolovich, who led this charge in early February, but also Lieutenant Governor Burke Jones and Speaker Burns, who spoke up and spoke loudly about protecting IVF rights for women in the state.
Great transition, because one of my losers is my friend, and she is my friend, former Democratic Senator Jen Jordan, who has said the Democrats should talk nonstop about Republicans trying to ban contraception. That's misinformation. No one wants to ban contraception. We can have a debate about the abortion pill, but if that's what we're talking about, let's call it that, not contraception.
All right. Well, I want to give a shout out to all the dads out there on this Father's Day, including all three of you. So happy Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to my dad. We affectionately know him as Ducky. So happy Father's Day, Duck. And we will
Happy Father's Day, Dad.
We will see you again next week. Make it a great one. Bye-bye.